So we are recording, and this is the question and answer session that we are having with Claudio and Cheryl Diaz from is it Diaz or Diaz?
Yes.
Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
From the Dark Matter of Love. We're doing this in conjunction with the National Attachment Trauma Awareness Day, not a day that really has been an entire month of activities sponsored by a variety of folks and hosted by the Attachment and Trauma Network. And I'm Julie Beam, the Executive Director of the Attachment and Trauma Network. I believe everybody who's with us tonight has seen the movie and is excited to talk to you, the two of you, about all kinds of things related to the movie. I'm going to start, just because we've not ever had a conversation before, just asking you to tell us what made you do this, what made you decide to film your adoptions, what made you decide to reach out to Dr. Marvin and his folks and go through this process, because that was a pretty brave and bold move. so tell us.
We were naive. Well, actually, we have several reasons, and there are a lot of people that ask us about that, and there are really three principal reasons that we've done that. One of the first is when Cheryl and I started dating, we always wanted 4 children, and so we decided that adoption, after having Cammie and not being able to have other children, or we have 5 waiting in heaven for us through unfortunate miscarriages, we decided to go ahead and continue through the adoption process, expanding our family to a group of 4 children like we always wanted. And so we knew that was a blessing for us. There are 2 other principal reasons why we started adopting, and then I'll go to the film. One of the reasons is I am a Cuban American, and my father, who had built his career entirely in Cuba and was doing very well with a PhD in education, director of almost like educational affairs in the largest precinct in Cuba, left everything, and I mean everything. My mom's getting on the plane and they say, no, wait a minute, and she had to drop her ring into a basket because it was socialist property at that point. And so what we wanted to do, I wanted to do, especially because my father gave us, the 3 of us as sons, freedom here in America and risked it all at a very late age in his life. The risk was well worth it. I wanted to pay it forward to 3 as well, and so that was another principal reason. And then the third one probably is the most grounded for us, and that is that the Bible is very clear that we should take care of widows and orphans. There are 47 references in the Bible, and it's a mandate that we have as Christians to make sure that the widows and orphans are taken care of. Mm-hmm. So as we started this process, we started realizing, wow, this is something that a lot of people have gone through, and we were very fortunate to have people help us in the process. And our agency called and said, hey, would you mind talking to this director from London who wants to put a movie together? And of course we said, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. But after we prayed about it for 2 weeks, we really thought, that probably wouldn't be a bad thing to help people understand that you too can get through this, and this too shall pass, and all of the hardships and the trials and tribulations that you're experiencing in the early days will get better. And that's how we probably decided at that point, let's go ahead and do the movie.
So the concept came from the filmmaker then.
That's right. That's right.
And she brought with her Dr. Marvin and his background and expertise?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. We were very blessed and very fortunate that with his level of expertise in the circles that we could be blessed with that knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm. So then the process was that he met with you. I mean, there was a little bit of that in the film. He met with you beforehand, obviously, and did some coaching and training and those types of things. Do you feel like that helped you to be prepared to know what you were getting, or was it still? I mean,
it's a little crazy.
Well, I got to tell you that probably the vast majority of the people hearing this are adoptive parents and have been down this road, either internationally or domestically. So, so you're among folks that would all go, oh yeah, nobody knows
Yeah.
what it's like till they're there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, then kudos to everybody who's on the line for giving back to those that need it, and I'm sure the blessings abound for you as well as they, at least that's what we've experienced for sure.
Yeah.
So you had a question again, Julie. What was the question? My apologies.
Did you feel like what Dr. Marvin and his folks did prior to going prepared you and and helped you be more prepared, or do you feel like there was still a lot of transition that
I think there was still a whole lot of transition to go through. I did a lot of reading and webinars, and I'll look through any kind of material I could find on it to try to prepare myself. But somebody can tell you, you can read about it, but until you're actually in that situation, you can't really take a grip on it in your head.
right?
Until you're like right in the midst of it, these wild little monkeys, coming at you, climbing up the walls like they just got, free, I'm free. Let's flick the light on and off a million times.
Right. And I mean, having watched this a few times, in fact, we had some trouble actually getting the DVD, so we downloaded it. So I'm like testing and retesting it on my computer to make sure I got the full download. So it's just playing in the background at my house on June 19th before we went to show it here locally. And there was one point that I hadn't caught in the first viewing where Dr. Marvin's like, it's not my place to tell them not to get 3 at once. I'm just thinking, who's going to tell them? It was like a suspense thing.
Right.
Julie, I remember hearing that for the first time, like the third viewing that I watched it, and I said, Bob, you should have been more courageous and help us understand that we're crazy.
Tell them. Well, but you're both still sitting here, so that's a good thing.
And they're out there, and we can bring them in later if you'd like. But
Okay.
yeah, it really, what a lot of people tell us that we need a sequel because, as I'm sure everybody who's on the webinar knows, you get through the difficult days and the stages of the early adoption stages, and once the bonding starts to happen, you find it to be a little easier. And of course, attachment and trauma and other disorders, are what we're managing. But I do believe that at the end of the day, if we have the courage to stick to it, this will be a blessing for both sides for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in the beginning, it was also the communication. Not only do they're free from where they were, but then they spoke Russian, and we had a translator while we were over there, while we were doing the process, but not when we were alone. So at night we would be with them by ourselves and not have any communication, only through basically like a sign language or a few words here and there, and so that was a little more difficult. But once, my friend had said, once you get on your turf,
Mm-hmm.
you will see an amazing change. And she said it to the month, the day, the week. She said exactly how it was going to go. She adopted a sibling group of 4 children from Russia and 1 before that from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got 5 children, and they've been here probably, I think 7. Is it 7 years?
Not 8.
No, 5 maybe. Anyway, they've been here for a while, and you would just never know that they weren't originally from that family to begin with. They're doing great.
So put us in context, time-wise. How long has it been since what we saw in the film occurred? How many years?
3 and
3
a
years,
half,
3+
Okay.
years.
All right. And then the children are now what ages?
9, 15, and 18.
Okay. So Cammie just graduated high school.
Yes.
That's awesome.
2 days ago we had a party.
That's great. Okay.
I want to mention that we are about to go through what looks like a pretty strong
Storm.
thunderstorm.
Okay.
So just in case you hear rumbling in the background, it's
Or
not the kids
disconnect.
trying to jump in and be part of the show.
Okay. Okay. So because I'm a mom that has bio children and adoptive children, I want to ask this question, mom to mom. Do you think that how do you think having a bio child prior to adoption either helped prepare you or helped you recognize what difficulties there were, or or didn't help you, or gave you like expectations that were different?
I would say, because I had her from birth, you're actually growing with them. Where when we got these kids, they've already grown so much, and then here they are, your children, and that is an adjustment, because the things that you teach them at a very, very young age, these children did not get. And so you find yourself trying to undo what was already done in the orphanages and start from scratch, just like you would a toddler. That's how we had to treat our 5-year-olds. Because we had to, no, you don't touch this, no, yes, you can do this, and that kind of thing. We had to start over from scratch on, different words, different rules, all this stuff, where your biological child automatically, as they are born and they grow, you're teaching them the whole time.
Right. Right.
So that in my opinion, was it was a little more difficult to do. Just go and get an older child and bam, it wasn't quite as easy. It's a little more stressful, and trying to help them to understand why we do the things we do. When Cammie was born into it,
Right.
so she automatically grew up knowing this is why we do what we do.
Right. You didn't have to do at least what looks to a lot of us like, I mean, not just for you, but for me personally, is like that teaching of social interaction and relationship that you don't have. I mean, you don't have to teach your bio child. They read your facial expressions. You have this reciprocity just going on, and there's not a direct, let's let's sit down and learn how to have a relationship kind of things that has to go on, because they truly haven't been taught that. And then if they struggle with that due to whatever their past traumas are, and I mean that some kids struggle more than others, it looks to us, and you can say yes or no in the movie, as if things were very hopeful and looks like things are going very well for you in terms of along those lines. I mean, not meaning to say that life is perfect, but
Won't lie, that we can't do that.
but in the sequel, what might we see? What would we see?
Well, I think we have established at least norms of interaction within the family and understanding certain codes. We love, for instance, having dinner together, and that is something that if anybody breaks the rule, it's me being late at the office or something like that. But we really try to make that time as much a sacred time as possible. Cheryl did a great job of establishing early the need for chores and responsibilities. Each of them have certain responsibilities that they carry out, and it's on the refrigerator, as many families have. I'm not trying to say we're any different, but I think the rhythm of responsibility helped them probably get through a lot of their questions, even about what are social norms and what are interactions that I should or maybe should not have with even my own siblings, and especially Cammie.
Right.
So And I also believe Cammie has, through her process of creating an identity and about to go to college, really come of age with them and understood that it is a give and take, that it isn't all you obey me because I'm the older sibling. And I think she's come around, although it was pretty tough for,
Wow.
I'd say, two, if not more than 2 of the 3 years. She really struggled still with how loud they were, and like Cheryl said, they're like monkeys that jump all over the place and everything like that.
Okay, they still do that, but
You rocked their world, though. I mean, watching that over and over again, that is the one takeaway. And not that I'm not saying that negatively, because I rocked my kids' world too. But it's very evident on the film. You can see that she had, and I just think about my own children, and they had big hopes and expectations, and then it was not everything they hoped for, and it was a whole lot more. I mean, my daughter still struggles in many ways, and so it's been both the worst and best thing we've ever done. I mean, so there's no way to say it other than that. And I know that, I mean, it's hard on the siblings, and I without even asking my whole panel of people here who I'm going to let them to ask questions, I know that many of them are probably going, yes, it's been hard on the other members of our family too, to adjust.
Yeah, we've had our time, but I tried with Cammie, I tried to make sure that we had that personal time together, whether sitting watching a movie at night just in one chair, and it was tight. Or she would, when he would go out of town, she would sleep in his side of the bed, or going out for coffee or shopping.
Right.
That I tried to keep that up, and then also give her a lot of time with her friends.
Yes. Yeah.
Because her support system in her friends was very good.
Right.
They were rallied around her and just took her in to care for her. So it was wonderful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so who's got a question? You can either use the little raise your hand tool. I'm going to unmute Melinda, since hers is up, or you can ask in the chat box.
That was from before when I raised my hand. I don't know how to unraise it.
Okay, let me see. I can unraise you. There we go. Okay. Okay, we do have something in the chat box, and let's see, from Lori. Did you experience the push and pull attachment style of I need you but go away? And she commented that they're using the circle work and are still working with a team to manage their son's homework refusal.
Yeah, we're reading it as well. Yeah, I would say, Lori, that it was most evident probably with our younger daughter, Masha, in that as she's tried to establish social norms for herself, she didn't even know relational norms, truthfully, and didn't know when to treat someone outside of the house like a relative, and didn't know when to treat, and sometimes treated people within the house, whether we as parents or her siblings, as strangers. And so it was a little bit of that, where she would want the attention, but then just shut down and not even answer questions, almost in a sense of go away. Not rude, not really rude, just without knowledge, without awareness that action was being communicating in some way, I don't want you, even though seconds before she had, through some measure of touch or desire for a hug or proximity, closeness, communicated I need you. So it's the circle lived over and over again, for sure. Additional comments on it?
Yeah, it was something that we're still working on, and especially the social outside the family, on the things that what are proper things to say outside the family,
right,
and what are not proper things to say or do, or you can talk to me about something personal, but you don't talk to me about something personal with the whole group around.
Right, right.
We're still working and struggling with that, but she's come around quite a bit compared to when we first got her, and she
Wow.
was closed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you all saw it when we hugged her the very first time. It was like hugging
Stiff as a
cardboard.
board, right.
Yes.
And that is no longer the case. And we kind of warned her. We said we're a huggy family. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's very good at helping out on things and around here. And I mean, I've had it where one night I was upset about something, and I went in my room, and she knocked on the room and door and said, "Are you okay, Mom? Do you need a hug?"
That's,
And I said, "Yes, I do." And so she gave me a hug.
that's awesome.
So yeah, so it's come around quite a bit, and she's more like that now than she was way back then. So it seems like it's been longer than 3 years that we've had them,
Mm-hmm.
because the actions that they're doing now, you wouldn't think that they would be doing it in that short a time, but it's only 3.5 years. It just feels like
That's
about
awesome.
10.
Awesome.
Diane, I noticed that you asking about a teacher or the relationship we have with the school. I have to tell you, we are so blessed. The Oregon School District in, I think, 2013, or no, 2012, was one of the top 100 school districts in the nation. And some of the chief administrators there have really dedicated themselves to the ESL programs. And we cannot complain one bit about what they've done. It's an amazing, amazing process. So immediately they heard that we were going down this path. I actually worked with one of the chief administrators on a strategy session separately. This is the kind of work I do. And he heard that we were adopting, and he said, well, you're in the right place because we've got a program that can really help you. And I, of course, took it as, you know, an administrator who's proud of his services, etc. They knocked it out of the park. They really stuck in there. One of the boys is a little bit more challenged in retention and memory retention, and especially short-term memory retention. And we don't know if it's alcohol fetal or not, but the point is that they they persevere through that and stay right on him to make sure that he develops in that area. And we've seen the development, and his brother has really mastered.
He's come out of his
Yeah,
shell.
yeah.
Vadim, he is very closed to, very shy, and would kind of withdraw if somebody. I remember he used to hide his head in my stomach when somebody would ask him a question,
Mm-hmm.
and now he goes right up to people and talks to them. But and he doesn't have a behavior issue at school at all, but the other one does. When they first started school, the first day of school, there was an intern principal. She drove her car to our house, and she rode the bus with them so that she could help them because they still spoke Russian,
Mm-hmm.
and so she wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable and knew what to do on the bus. And then she rode home with them, and several times the principal has called me about one of them, and we worked together on a program of some kind of behavior modification to help him become better, like reward system, have a little plan that he does, he writes out, have things so he is doing other things instead of thinking of things he's not supposed to be doing. But every time something happens, the principal calls me, we say what works for both of us, so we are both on the same page. So they have been incredible.
That's good.
And keeping them on their levels and everything, I mean, from behavior to also their learning abilities and capabilities. They put them in the places that they need to be when they need it.
Do you find that the behavior mod is working for him? Because I know a lot of families report to us that that's a problem for their kids.
Actually, it has been. The reward system, he is very proud to say, I got this many points today. I got that many points today.
Okay.
He's very proud. Yes.
You know, I think, and I'm not by any means saying that this is the case in those situations you're alluding to, Julie, but I really, the piece that matters most is what Cheryl said, that they help us understand the program that's at school and ask us to replicate it at home, or be
Vice
able
versa.
to, be able to know what program or what style and approach we're using at home and try to replicate it with their teachers. Most of them, some of them are younger in their approaches and may not have as much as a PhD, for instance. However, they're more agile as well, you know, than sometimes a PhD.
Usually more flexible in their thinking too. Yeah, that they.
Right. And so I think that is the critical difference. But just that example, I couldn't believe when Cheryl told me the night before that the principal was coming out. I said, honey, you must have heard her incorrectly. There's no way that's going to happen. And sure enough, she shows up and rides the bus back home with them and everything. And that's the kind of educational system that definitely supports us.
True. Let's see, I'm looking here. On the end of Lori's question, she did talked about homework and homework refusal as being her biggest minefield. Is that, you know, is that true for any of your kids? I mean, it has been true at my house at times.
We have Masha, who has maintained pretty much an A through this whole thing, and she was out of the ESL program within the year. She is very hard. She comes home, she does her homework, she gets it done. She puts all her effort into making sure that it's the best she can do.
No, froze on me.
And they, so what the teachers have been doing is actually for their reading, instead of bringing it home to read, they would stay after school a half an hour longer, and they would do this at school. So this year they did not send too much homework home with them, because last year they did not. They would fight to do their homework. It would take hours and hours and hours, and struggling and crying. And when I told the teachers this is what's going on, they said that's not how it's supposed to be.
That's awesome that they recognize that. I mean, that is the piece of advice I frequently give to families, is that you've got to make that homework a non-issue, because there's so much important work that you're doing at home. I mean, that all of that bonding, that attachment, that learning how to be a family, all of that is so much more important than the homework. And so, you know, if there's a way to be made to do that at school, that really, you know.
Yeah,
and don't let us paint the halos on too straight, let me tell you, because there have been those days where we have really just been at our wits' end in trying to figure out how to pace them and how to get them to know the next step, and just trying to develop those critical thinking skills and focus. But yeah, we've I think been very blessed that they've come as far as they have.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
And the boys are doing. They're still a little behind, but they're doing good at the levels that they're doing. So they're improving a little bit at a time, but Caden really improved on his reading. They put him in his regular reading and an extra reading. And Cole, he has a little more difficulty because his retention for the words. So when he goes and he sight reads, he doesn't remember that is a sight word.
Right.
So he struggles. But the other one, once that reading clicked, he started doing better in reading and math and everything.
That's
right. And then he's like proud of himself and wants to do it good.
Right.
The big difference.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. It's great that you have a school system that helps you sort all that out, because those are in addition to the attachment and trauma impacts of orphanage, life. You've got all that other that could be either prenatally or just from lack of nutrition or proper care or proper stimulation. I mean, I did notice in the film, I think it was when you all went to hear Masha sing, there was one point when one of the boys had his fingers in his ears, and I went, "Ooh, there could be sensory stuff there too. There could be.
Well, there is.
For one of them, they're definite. Well, both of them have a little bit of that, but one is very.
It's more acute.
Yeah, it's very specific to certain sounds, and why are they making that noise? And
Right.
the minute he hears something loud, he just automatically sticks his fingers in his
Right.
ears.
I have one of those myself. She gets very anxious in settings, in public settings where it might occur. You know, that attending performances, because until she was able to process the jokes or the when people are going to applaud or all that social stuff, you know, she didn't know when it was going to happen, and it was scary to her. And
yeah. Diane, you had a question about how early did we start. So we arrived at Washington Dulles on October 30th, 29th. October 29th,
Yeah.
I think. And so we did not put them in school at that time and waited until the January semester
Middle
to
January,
put them in school. Yeah, 2 weeks later than the normal school start. And we felt the incubation that needed to happen within the family, as we've all read, is very critical in those early days, so that they do understand things like, well, you may not like the hug, but you're getting one. And so just giving them those norms, I think, are critical. And if you blend that in the school system or just any foreign system to your house too early, I think there's more confusion. This is just me. I'm not saying I'm a therapist or anything, but I think there's more confusion in them, and they need to really understand that this unit called the house and the family supersedes others, and especially for quite a while until you like move out and go to college and things like that. But that's what we wanted to almost fortify, and that's the reason why we decided to wait 2.5, almost 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
To establish that, first of all, they have in their brain that you're going to send them back.
Right.
And I think it's even on the movie that she talked to such and such, and they're going to send us back. And even one of them came up and said he's the one that gets in trouble all the time at school, and he said, you should have never got me because I have a bad brain.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you should just send me back. And I said, oh, no, God gave you to me for a reason. He gave me to you for a reason. And you make some bad choices, but it's not your brain. Your brain is just fine, and you're not going anywhere. You've got me for a long time.
Do you feel like you feel like they're internalizing that now? Because that's a hard message for our kiddos. I mean, you nailed it so beautifully, but it's such a hard message for them.
It is. You have to remind them because they get down on themselves when especially it's almost like he can't help himself when he does do these things wrong, and then he starts thinking about the consequences and crying before he even but it's like, why weren't you thinking about those consequences back then when you were doing it? But so then he gets down on himself and says, it's my brain keeps telling me to do this. But we just are trying to teach him that your brain tells you good and it tells you bad, and you need to decipher which is the good and bad. And you just got to keep reinforcing that it's not their brain, it's just that they're making poor choices. So.
And we try to kind of upset the ratio, of course, of the bad to the good, and try to recognize as often as we can. And please, 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 please don't hear that we're perfect or that that it's all good and everything. We get just as frustrated as possible, but we try to help each other say, all right, hang on a second. Where's the ratio here? Are we doing a lot more no, can't, instead of really supportive language? Julie, you asked the question, do we think it's working? I've got to say yes. I really do believe that they're starting to understand that they are part of this family and they can contribute and take away from the family, almost like a withdrawal deposit system. You know, and the more withdrawals that you take, the less there will be, and the more deposits you put in by helping and being a good steward of your time and all those things helps them understand that, you know, there are positive consequences. All behaviors have consequences, positive or negative, and I think they are getting that.
Yeah, They are. I know one. He likes rules, and he tries to follow his rules. But he's also got a connection to his twin brother, which is a whole different ballgame.
Right.
My dad was an identical twin, and they were beyond connected. Okay, so they were more connected than these boys. But you can be coerced
Yeah.
into doing something that maybe you really know is not. No, we're going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, you know, he's saying that it's okay, and I believe him, and I want to trust him. So we have a little issue on that. They both usually, if one's done it, the other one says, "Oh, well, he did it. He started it. Oh, but did you follow him, or did you say no? That's not a good choice." And it's like, nope, I followed.
We were both using his
So,
brain this time.
exactly, exactly. But I mean, they're good boys. They're loving.
Mm-hmm.
They're very loving. They've got a lot of love in there. It's sometimes hard to pull that out. You have to, I don't know, sometimes you got to tickle them, you got to make jokes with them, and you like, one time they'll be like angry and giving a scowl look, and you got to do something, you know, I didn't see you laugh. Did you just smile? And it's like, then they can't really help from doing, you know, smiling. No. And then the next thing you know, they're smiling. So, you know, you just got to keep working on them.
So who else has got a question in the crowd?
The lawnmower scene. Why is that, Diane? Why was that one of your favorite parts? Because
I unmuted you, Diane. You can talk if you want.
Oh, okay, great. Because I thought you really stopped to try, I don't even know if I can talk. This gets me emotional. I thought you really took the time to try to see why he was scared over the sound of the lawnmower. And then you got the earplugs. And then just the scene of him sitting on your lap riding around the lawn. It just, that just brought tears to my eyes. It still does.
well, thank you. Yeah, it was a very difficult puzzle to unpack because we just did not understand it. I said it in the movie, and oftentimes when we're in a crowd and we hear laughter, it comes across as odd for me because I really thought for sure they were somehow traumatized by some gardener.
By a gardener.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, I really meant that. And so I was just trying to unlock it and understand it more and more. And that was over a series of days and weeks. It wasn't immediate by any stretch of the imagination. Eventually, though, I think he began to understand that I will do everything I can. I tried to explain to him, I will do everything I can to guard you. So we were talking a lot of sign language because they still didn't know the English language very well. But I tried to kind of tell him, I'm going to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
That machine won't hurt you. I will protect you. And I think that's what let him step out a little further on, you know, the security circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It helped him step out a little further in that
Trust.
fear and create that trust with me. So.
Yeah, and they were traumatized by vacuum cleaners and being stuffed in a closet overnight, and their heads
The
stuck in the
translators told us
toilet.
that, yeah.
Well, Vadim and I will sit down and talk, and he was the more closed one. But we would sit down and have a snack together, and he would say, you know, and then I remember in Russia, and this is what happened. And so I would find out little tidbits here and there, like they rode a train and what they saw, and the old man that they remembered, and the girls, when they didn't mind, would put their heads in the toilet and hold it in there. So it's any wonder they were traumatized by more than just sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, when we first tried to put them in the tub in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh.
Part of that. Yeah.
No, they didn't. And then also they had to have a lot of teeth pulled. So we took them to the hospital to have them put out for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it both at the same time. Well, one didn't want to go in first. So the other one went in first, and he went in very calmly, looks at me on the table, waves goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in. The second one, his brother doesn't come back. He thinks he killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Not back, killed him
Right.
in there. So he did not want to go.
Right.
So I said, I told the translator to tell him I brought him to America to get rid of him. Why would I do that? So he fought all the way in, and I had to pull his hands off the wall, and I finally got him in. He fought, going under,
Mm-hmm.
and when he came out, he was fighting coming out, where the other one went in very calmly and came out very calmly.
Right.
So since he didn't see his brother, he thought they got rid of him.
Yeah.
And then in their
You
brain,
would believe that.
yeah, because he went down to recovery and not back in the
Not
same
back
room.
to the same room. Right.
Yeah. So, that was quite that. So that he was very traumatized into like thinking where in his brain, what over there did they threat to him that made him think that they would take his brother and do away with him.
Right. Right.
I mean, there was some kind of threat that was given to them. Also, they had a story about this lady, Baba Yaga, who was a witch. And if they did not behave, Baba Yaga was going to come get them
At nighttime.
at nighttime.
Right.
So they were afraid to go down in their room. And they would have to write a note, and they didn't tell us this, but they would have to write a note and apologize to their parents or to whoever, and they would put it under their pillow. And if the thing was gone in the morning, then Baba Yaga was not going to come, and they were forgiven. Well, they didn't tell us that. They woke up in the morning. This was in Russia, and the note was still there, and we didn't know we were supposed to take it. And so they were so worried about Baba Yaga getting them, and I'm saying there is no Baba Yaga, no.
Yeah.
So we came here, and they looked out their window and said that Baba Yaga was out there, and I said in the United States there's no Baba Yaga. It took a while to convince them that when they were bad that somebody wasn't going to come and do something to them. Yeah.
Yep. Interesting crowd control discipline. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have got, whether we ever figure it out with our kids, depending on how old they were and what they were able to tell us, have got those kinds of stories, especially from orphanage. I mean, I'm just thinking about my own daughter and thinking, some of the things that she's afraid of, and some of the things that even she's afraid of that she doesn't know why, and we don't know why. And that's. What else, folks? One button. Actually.
So Diane, your question on expressing a desire to go back to Russia is a good one. I don't think Masha has expressed that much desire to go back. We were told very earlier, almost warned by the agency, that if the boys do go back to Russia before the age of 26, they might not come home with us because they still have their passports and they could be immediately enlisted into the militia. So we've been very clear with them. We live a pretty transparent life here at this house, and so we try to hide nothing. And we told them, look, we are not going to be going back until after you're 26 for this reason. We don't feel it's in your best interest, and we have the decision after 18, if you decide to go back and you want to find your family of sorts, just be careful that that's a risk that you're going to take, and just be wise in how you make that decision. So we haven't seen a whole lot of dialogue to the theme of I want to go back and visit and play or vacation.
Masha has mentioned that if she went back, she would just want to see her friends, but by the time she would go back, they would probably age out, and she would not be able to find them anyway. Also, the lady Luba, who was in the movie, she has gotten in contact with. So now we try to send pictures and try to keep in, and she's written back. So we try to keep in contact with her. And I think if anybody that she might want to see, it would be her or some of the orphanage directors that she dealt with.
Mhm.
So her best friend actually lives in Sylvania, Ohio. So we've seen her too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad that you're in contact with her, because the whole time I was watching the movie, I kept thinking, well, here's that healthy early attachment, that a person that she's got an established bond with, and that bodes so much, so well for her, for you to
Oh,
be able to recreate something, as a family. I mean, that at least that's what my experience tells me, that,
yeah, no, we think you're right, Ju. I don't know if you remember the detail of me hugging Luba and saying, thank you for everything you've done. That's what I was alluding to,
hmm
that, in essence, she potentially erased some of the attachment and trauma that could have potentially been worse
right.
by having a loving person to confide in and talk with and trust. And so that's what I meant in the movie by saying thank you,
hmm
because that made a world of a difference.
Yeah, she was a very special lady to Masha, and there's a lot of kids out there, but she met Masha when she was 2, and so when she was in the baby house, because that's where she worked at that time,
hmm
and so she kind of kept in contact with her and took her to church, and then when she was in the one that she was in when we got her, she would get her on the weekends and take her gardening and things like that. So she had a bond there with her. And I remember that Luba told me, or told the translator to tell me, that one day she will love you. Give her time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always had that hope.
Well, you,
It's almost like she experienced some of the attachment issues and knew, hey, this is going to be a rough ride,
well,
persevere.
she knew
Yeah.
that she was going to probably react in that sort of that withdrawn kind of pull back, shut down sort of, because because we all have our own way of coping, and she knew that was her, knew that was her style.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah. So.
Melinda, I think did you type anything in? Because we don't see it. Did I erase it by chance?
Go down. Pull your arrow down. Maybe it will. Yeah.
Melinda says she enjoyed the movie.
Oh, okay.
She really enjoyed it.
Oh, I got it.
There you
Okay.
go.
All right.
So tell us a little about the film. The film it has been on Netflix for a while at this point. And
Probably about 10
mhm.
months.
Maybe.
We don't know. We don't benefit from any of
Right.
that,
Do you
so
hear any feedback? Do you know if it's being, I mean, do you know if it's being used in other ways to,
yep. We've done a lot of these, not necessarily webinars, but we will do a showing and then hang out for questions afterwards,
Yeah.
and have done that like 6 times. And of course, all of the film festivals and the awards that it's winning in the film festivals are a testament to the community, the world, the global community responding as well. So we're very pleased with that. We do get, probably they do more than I do, because I don't Facebook intentionally.
Yeah.
Not that I judge people who do or anything. It's just my choice. But Cheryl and Cammie are very active in Facebook, and they do get a lot of people writing and saying thanks. Cammie even gets text messages and tweets.
Yeah.
And just saying, way to hang in there. Those kinds of affirmations
that's
are really
awesome.
helpful. It really is.
Yeah, and a lot of people have wanted to friend me
Mm-hmm.
or want me to friend them. So it makes it kind of hard, because all of a sudden you'll see all of a sudden these people started when the thing was announced on Netflix. All of a sudden I saw people like wanting to be my friend, wanting me to accept their friend thing, and so you kind of gotta look through those
Right. Because it could be
and see.
anybody. Are there a lot of parents, adoptive parents, reaching out to you? Do you think that that's what that's happening a lot of times, or just?
Well, there's been a couple on there that yes, they have. In fact, one is like probably about 45 minutes from here, and she even when she comes up towards Madison, the kids will yell, "That's where Masha lives! That's where Masha lives!" So I did friend her, and we go back and forth because she's fostered, I believe five. She's got five children. I believe they're all foster.
Mm-hmm.
So her story is intriguing to me. So she's got some special needs children and those kind of stories, because to me that's the real courage, that we've got kids that in my opinion are very healthy and very well-rounded. They might have their little
Quirks.
things here and there, like their behavior issues, or they might have, some of the attachment things, but she's got like autism and this and that. So to me, that really is intriguing. Their story is intriguing to me, how they juggle all of that. We know how we juggle this and the difficulties that we have, but to have a family of adoptees that have the special needs and juggle that, to me, that's amazing. That just really is fascinating to me. So I really enjoy seeing her pictures and comments and me asking her questions to get advice from her. So it's really nice.
It's great. It's great. So Facebook isn't all bad, Dad.
I know it. It's very good. It's just I made a choice not to.
Yeah, it's a big time eater, that's for sure sometimes.
Yeah.
So Diane, your mic has been open all this time. Do you have?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So why don't you just give us a good final
my
question? Yeah.
Is Masha better at expressing her emotions now?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah, she's matured in that arena. Now she'll still get that. I don't think she understands that the facial expression is incongruent with her intent
Right.
at times, and so she will look mad, but not in her heart, of course, not be. So she's got to connect the facial expression with the intention. And for those of us that hang around her sufficiently enough that we can see that, we can call it out. And we remind her, hey, are you happy? She goes, yeah. Well, you might want to tell your face.
Right. Right. Because if you give her some kind of feedback, which I'm not good on feedback, so I understand a lot of that, but when you give her feedback, she somewhat shuts down. So you got to work your way back in again. So she might have that little scowl on her face, but maybe she already got over it, but her scowl is still there.
Right. Right.
So we just have to give her a little reminder, or I'll say, I love your smile. Can I see it?
I love that. I love that way of that's a positive way of getting there. So she doesn't feel that was a criticism at all. That's great.
Right.
Well, thank you both. Thanks for your time, and thanks everybody else that attended and asked questions and participated. As you can tell, we enjoyed the movie and found it meaningful and relatable. I mean, I think everybody who watches it who's an adoptive parent can relate to this experience. No matter, even if our experience is different, we still can relate to it and appreciate the bravery and the candidness of allowing them to follow that whole process with you, because you didn't know what was going to happen, and let the cameras go with you anyway. That's pretty incredible.
Well, we just really want to encourage each and every one of you, especially those of you that not only are adopted parents but also do the work of the social work of love for families that need it. And there are many moments you will not know that you are a lifesaver, but you obviously are. I like to say that we don't know every bit of positive impact that we will make in our lives, but without it, we will know that it's a void. And so thank you all for continuing to fill that void for the families that really do need your services. It's so appreciated, and we benefited from it as well.
Thank
So
you.
our hats go off to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, everybody, and I do want to encourage you all that if there is anything that the Attachment and Trauma Network can do for anybody who's on this or who watches this recording afterwards, to please reach out to us. You can reach out to me personally. Go to our website at www.attachedtrauma.org and get our email or phone and contact us. Thank you. Thank you, Diaz family, and good luck. We're looking forward to that sequel so that we can we can see what happens
Let me know when
next.
it comes out.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.